Last night at approximately 12:52 a.m., our department received a 911 call from a caller, and the requested location was 1435 West Dayton, regarding check the welfare of a brother who was lying in the middle of the street. The caller, the 911 caller, was Lysandra Jackson, who ultimately turned out to be the sister of Bobby Pearson. As you know, Bobby Pearson was released from jail yesterday, actually late last night, as a result of a mishap that occurred within the courts, and so as reported by the media yesterday. So after receiving the call, officers arrived at the Dayton location and discovered that 37-year-old Bobby Pearson was lying in the middle of the roadway. Upon checking Pearson, they noticed that he had two wounds. One of those wounds was to the chest area. The other wound was to the stomach area. The wound on the stomach appeared to be some sort of a laceration, whereas the wound to the chest appeared to be a puncture wound, which could have occurred from either a stabbing instrument or perhaps even a gunshot. The autopsy will occur tomorrow, so we will not know what that wound is truly until then. The officers did provide medical treatment, medical aid to Pearson while they were on scene, and then ultimately he was transported to CRMC, where he was unfortunately pronounced deceased at 1:26 a.m. The homicide detectives, Richard Tacadina as well as Leonard Cabrera, responded to the location. They did locate a knife that was located next to Pearson. Again, we do not know if that knife was used during this altercation, but it was lying next to Pearson. The detectives determined that the person responsible for the murder was 35-year-old Willie Gray, and we also determined that he had went to a location, apartment complex at 1048 West Clinton, where he was arrested shortly before 5 a.m. by members of the Violent Crime Impact Team. What we do know since we started this investigation is that Willie Gray was dating Bobby Pearson's sister, Lysandra Jackson, and that for about the past 18 months there had been a strained relationship between both Gray and Pearson. And ultimately last night there was some type of a verbal confrontation that occurred between the two while they were at the 1435 West Dayton, and that subsequently led to some type of a disturbance out onto the street area where Bobby Pearson ultimately succumbed to injuries. We also learned that Gray, shortly after the altercation, drove to a relative's residence over in the area of Clinton and 1048 West Clinton, and again, that's where he was subsequently arrested. What we do know about the individuals that are involved in this disturbance is that Bobby Pearson, who was released shortly before midnight last night, has an extensive criminal history. We know that he has prior gang involvement with a West Fresno street gang. He has what we know 11 convictions. Those convictions are for crimes such as auto theft, possession of stolen property, burglary, some firearms charges, ex-felon in possession of a firearm. So he does have an extensive criminal history. Willie Gray, on the other hand, has not had very much contact with law enforcement over the last 6 years. In fact, minimal contact. However, prior to that, he did do 13 years in prison for what we believe to be a home invasion robbery. At least that's the information that we have researched as of today. The question that comes about in an incident like this is if Bobby Pearson would not have been released, would this murder have occurred? And the obvious answer is no, he would have been in jail. But we do know that when an individual like Bobby Pearson, who's involved in a criminal lifestyle, involved in gangs, there's always a potential for him to become a victim of violent crime, and that's what we saw last night in our city.